Dr. Saladino, when you're recommending this diet, what risks do you discuss with your patients?
I don't think there are any risks to eating animal foods exclusively.
As an attorney, I would ask you, you're a medical doctor, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And you are a psychiatrist, am I
Right,
correct?
I did a residency in psychiatry.
So what do you know about nutrition?
Where
did you gain your background in nutrition?
Listen, this is, I think...
No, you listen to me and answer my question. Now I'm asking you to tell us where your background emanates from.
Yeah. A really great way to have a conversation is to ask someone a question, interrupt them before they have a chance to answer it, and then accuse them of not answering that question. I think we've now fully entered into the universe where TV is just a complete parody of itself. A judge with no training in biology telling a medical doctor that he is unqualified to talk about the human body and nutrition. I think that is quite possibly one of the most hypocritical things I've seen in a while. I mean, just by her appearance, I can tell she doesn't eat healthy, so why is she even in this conversation? Based on her own argument, she should keep her mouth shut and only let the doctor speak. Fortunately, for our entertainment, Judge Mary does keep speaking.
I went to medical school, and I studied nutrition in medical school, and I studied nutrition independently. One of the crazy things about medical school is that it teaches you how to read articles. I'm a doctor. I know how to read articles.
So have you
I know how
done
to read
any
the literature.
independent testing? Have you written any articles that was as suggested by the physicians who've been here today?
What does writing articles have to do with my knowledge of
Well,
nutrition?
because I could become you. I could be you as an expert because I read all of the data and all of the articles on this subject. Now I'm an expert? That doesn't make me an expert.
Actually, it does make you an expert. It's possible for you to become a doctor if you put in all the work it takes to become a doctor. Also, you do know that saying things loudly doesn't make you correct, right? If you ignore the tone of her voice, you'll notice that Judge Mary said nothing of substance against Dr. Saladino's arguments, and she argues some pretty dangerous ideas. A big part of becoming an expert in any field is self-study and continuing to learn new information as you age into your profession. That's what this carnivore diet doctor is doing. This might be a shot to Judge Mary, but it is possible to learn things outside of college by studying stuff on your own. All of your learning doesn't need to be a part of some certification program. Let's get more into it, but first, if you like the content you see on this channel, then consider making a donation. Viewer support helps keep me independent, and it helps fund the channel. Links to my PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribestar pages can all be found in the description. And also, don't forget to support me on Alt Tech. Links to my Odysee, Rumble, and Minds pages can all be found in the description as well. Alright, before we continue this mess, let's go over some backstory. These clips come from a show called The Doctors. This episode is about two girls who had an immune system disorder. They changed to a diet where they only eat meat and eggs, and all of their symptoms went away. The two girls were invited to the show along with Dr. Paul Saladino to discuss the diet. Personally, I've done no research on the carnivore diet, so I have nothing to offer to either verify or discredit its validity. A lot of people have been claiming that it helps with autoimmune diseases, and if it does that, I think that's great. However, I won't be discussing the science of that today. I don't have to discuss the science, because despite there being several doctors against the carnivore diet on the panel, a grand total of 0 of them use the scientific method to argue that the carnivore diet is bad for you. For example,
I'm a board-certified physician nutrition specialist.
Right.
I have been practicing nutrition exclusively. I'm trained as an internist. I was originally board-certified in internal medicine. I have spent 20 years. You've been dallying in this for a few years, reading articles. I've been doing it, working with patients.
Did you hear any science in this segment used to disprove Dr. Saladino's claim? What I heard from Dr. Molina was, I have a degree, I've been doing this for 20 years, you're wrong. Now that's a great propaganda technique, but it's certainly not science. People who don't know how the scientific method works are easily fooled by appeals to authority that are used in the place of evidence. Calling yourself an expert doesn't make you an expert. You actually need to prove that you know what you're talking about by using facts, reasoning, and evidence. Saying that you have a degree, I guess, is technically a fact, but it's not evidence of your claim against this diet. Speaking of that degree, Dr. Paul Saladino made a response video to this segment. Let's see what he says about Dr. Molina's degree.
I don't know if most people listening to the doctors realize that everybody goes to the same medical school. There's not like a medical school for surgeon and a medical school for family practice and a medical school for family medicine. We all go to the same medical school. So we all get an MD, and then we choose to do a residency in the field that suits us best. So I did the same biochemistry training, I did the same nutrition training as any person up there, right? And no person up there got nutrition training in their residency. And that Melina Jampoulis, who they're putting out as a nutrition specialist, took an online or an in-person course that is not HEGME certified and is a fake nutrition certification.
Really? You mean to tell me that you all go to the same kind of school, and once you complete it, you choose a program of study called a residency, where you learn your area of expertise outside of the school system? But that's exactly what Judge Mary said makes Dr. Saladino unqualified.
The bottom line
fair.
is you practice psychiatry. Am I correct?
I practice medicine.
You practice psychiatry, is that correct?
Medicine.
So what makes you an expert in this?
Because an expert in what? An expert in understanding human physiology?
Wow, you can tell that she's a lawyer and a judge when you hear her repeat the same question over and over again, trying to get Dr. Saladino to give her the answer that she wants. That's a manipulation tactic that abusers will commonly use, and it's commonly used in court. Tell me though, if they get the same background in biology during medical school, they learn how to read research, and they both do continuing education programs, how does that make one qualified and the other not qualified? It seems to be that the determining factor here on whether someone is qualified or not is purely based on if you agree with their ideas. And of course, Judge Mary gaslights when Dr. Saladino points out her lack of consistency.
To say that because I'm a psychiatrist, I don't know about nutrition is a completely...
I didn't say that.
That's
Your
what you were
expertise
inferring. That's
is
what
the
you were
mind.
inferring.
Again, bringing out the lawyer card. Yeah, you didn't explicitly say it, but the purpose of you talking about his qualifications was to discredit him by saying, "You're not a trained nutritionist, therefore your opinion is invalid." The complete irony of this claim is that no one on this panel is a nutritionist except for Dr. Melina, yet they all claim to have the authority. Oddly enough, Dr. Melina did not go to school for nutrition, just like the carnivore diet guy, Dr. Saladino. Yet she is considered qualified, but he's not.
Scary thought process that is all you need to do is read articles to make you an expert. I want to know what kind of testing you've done, what kind of data you have, what you yourself have found regarding these issues.
I'm not sure
other than what reliance is on other people's
I'm not
findings.
sure I understand your question because that's how
You don't want to listen to my question because you know I'm right.
What? Man, she is incredibly arrogant. Does this judge even have a remote understanding of how the medical field works? Researcher and medical doctor are two different fields. Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you carry out research. Probably most doctors don't do their own research. They treat patients. Where do they get the knowledge to treat patients? By reading journal articles and scientific papers. That's all a medical textbook is. It's a collection of research papers written in a format that's more digestible. It's a secondary source. Insulting Dr. Saladino for reading the primary sources himself and instead suggesting that he should read someone else's interpretation of the primary sources is incredibly propagandistic. The judge is basically saying, you're only allowed to learn from sources that we approve of, and that's incredibly unscientific. I'm surprised that none of the panel called her on that, because the way Dr. Saladino is learning about the carnivore diet is the way that medical doctors are supposed to learn. Speaking of the other doctors, let's get back to Dr. Melina.
My oath is first do no harm. And I am not a plant-based person. I don't advocate only plants. I think meat, I think there is nutrient density. I think getting rid of the processed foods and the toxins in processed foods, that's what's damaging
Show me
the
the
gut.
study that meat is dangerous.
Show me the study that broccoli is dangerous to lupus.
Okay, wait. I will show you the study.
The lack of discussion on this show is incredible. It's pure propaganda. Of course processed foods are bad for you, but he asked you for a study that says meat is dangerous, and you counter with, no, you show me a study. That's not an argument. You made the claim, he asked you for your evidence, and you refused to give it to him. You have not verified your claim with any supporting facts, reason, or evidence, therefore, your claim is invalid. But the producers don't want you to think that, so they cued the audience to clap at her non-argument. Now, I've been in the audience on TV shows before. When I was there, every audience reaction was a cued response. So my suspicion is that the clapping wasn't actually genuine. On his podcast, Dr. Saladino confirms my belief that these claps were staged.
Is there a sign that cues them to clap? And
There
laugh?
is. There's a cue. There's a clap cue.
That's kind of silly.
Yep. This is totally, the clapping is totally staged. There was somebody in the back cueing them when to clap.
So not only did this show put 5 people against one doctor, not only did they put most of the anti-carnivore diet people on a higher platform, which subconsciously communicates that they have more authority, but they also told the audience when to clap so it would give their side more social proof. I don't know if Dr. Saladino's claims about the carnivore diet are valid, but what I do know is that none of the detractors on this show did anything to disprove him. Every single time they use a propaganda tactic to convince the audience instead of actual science. Look, here they are doing it again.
Dr. Khan, you're a cardiologist.
I wonder what Dr. Saladino, a colleague of mine and a psychiatrist, was doing research on this morning in the National Library of Medicine PubMed is all the research studies that are randomized on the carnivore diet. There is not one.
But wait, that guy's a cardiologist. He's not a nutritionist, therefore, by the logic of the doctors, he is unqualified to talk about diet. Where's his background in nutrition? Where's his personal research on this subject? His only argument is that there is no evidence, followed by an anecdote that it didn't show because he didn't cite any counter research. But unless you've read every piece of research, how do you know there's no evidence? PubMed isn't the only database. Evidence of absence is not absence of evidence. There actually is evidence that says that the carnivore diet is safe in the short term, but Dr. Joel Kahn weasels out of this by saying that there are no randomized trials for the carnivore diet, but fails to mention that randomized trials for diets are incredibly difficult to perform, especially for a long-term study, because diets have like a 95% dropout rate after 3 months. There are probably very few randomized trials for any of the popular diet trends. However, if you aim to prove that the carnivore diet is dangerous, then you need to prove that claim by showing research that it's unhealthy, not by saying, you don't have any evidence that it is healthy. Here's the thing. They want to make it look like Dr. Saladino doesn't actually read research and has no evidence, when the fact of the matter is that he gave them studies to read about the carnivore diet before the show.
I provided a list of 36 studies to the doctors for this episode. Every single person up there had a 36 study bibliography of all the studies that I wanted to talk about. But they didn't read them, and they certainly didn't reference them at all during this event.
Spending the segment claiming that there are no studies or using terms like randomized trials that the audience likely doesn't understand the nuance of, when he provided you 36 studies before the show, is very dishonest. It shows that these people do not care about the truth, they just care about confirming their bias. The only good thing I saw the doctors do this entire episode was mention a conflict of interest by saying that Joel Kahn is a vegan, so at least they were honest once. Being that Dr. Saladino was the only one who seems to have provided actual research examples, let's hear what he has to say.
So in 1930, there was a study published in the British Medical Journal of a year-long investigation of 2 people in Bellevue Medical Hospital who were eating an exclusive carnivore diet. And during that period of time, these people experienced no negative effects, no dangerous changes in blood pressure, kidney function. They only experienced good things, a little bit of weight loss, and came out of the study saying that they felt better than when they started.
I'll admit that a study from almost a century ago done on only 2 people is kind of weak evidence. Dr. Saladino counters this by saying there are very few nutritional studies that are as stringent as the study he brought up, which is probably also true. It's very hard to tell people, for the next 20 years, you're only allowed to eat meat, or for the next 20 years, you're only allowed to eat plants. The best thing we could probably get away with is to have maybe several groups of 10 people who go on different diets like vegan, carnivore, paleo, or gluten-free, plus a control group, and we see what does what over a 1-year period. The problem is that getting 40 average Americans who previously did not eat healthy to switch to a very stringent diet for even just 1 year is incredibly difficult. The only other study I've seen like that was Dr. Esselson's study on fighting heart disease with a low-fat, whole-food, plant-based diet. I believe he started out with 24 and was somehow able to keep 18 of them on the diet over a 5-year period. As far as I'm aware, it took an incredible amount of work and checking up on to keep those people on this diet.
Literally, there are thousands and thousands of studies that show the benefits of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and we're not saying meat's bad for you. Right. I ate meat last night, but you keep getting back to, no one is saying meat is bad for you. Right. What we are saying is, if all you eat for your whole life, ever, is just meat, that's not good. I don't have to be a doctor. I'm just like, I'm blown away right now.
Being indignant about a topic is not an argument or evidence of your point. There are thousands of studies? Okay, show me one. Considering that you have so much source material, that should be easy. This would be like if I didn't like anime and someone said, "How could you not like anime? There are thousands of different shows that are phenomenal." To which I respond, "Okay, name one good show." Followed by the person arguing that anime is good, coming up with no answers. Now, because I don't agree with my hypothetical take that all anime is bad, I can absolutely name a single good show. Outlaw Star. There, I did it. Now you have a tangible item that you can either praise or criticize. If there are so many examples of research that prove your claim, why can't you name one? I'm emphasizing this because woke people seem to make this kind of argument all the time, but never seem to be able to provide a single piece of data for what they're saying. Every time you push them on their data, they either have no answer or they tell you to Google it yourself. Why? Because they don't want you to have the ability to criticize them, and giving you a specific example instead of some abstraction allows you to do that. They just want to say things loudly to bully people into agreeing with them. So even if you don't agree with the carnivore studies that Dr. Saladino brought up, you should respect his actions and willingness to be criticized. Him throwing a specific study out there gives his opponents a chance to discredit him, while his opponents saying, "There's tons of research, go look it up," gives Dr. Saladino zero chance to question the credibility of their research. So I don't accept the argument from the doctors about this diet being unhealthy. They said that eating only meat is bad for you. They made the claim, therefore they need to show the data. When you are having conversations with people, particularly radical leftists, you need to push them on this because otherwise they will do everything in their power to avoid giving you specific examples of what they're talking about. The less specific their claim is, the easier it is for them to manipulate you. If someone calls you a misogynist or a racist, you need to ask for a specific example of that, and if they can't give you one, their claim is invalid. They don't want to be criticized, and that is evident in their behavior. Listen to how Dr. Molina treated Dr. Saladino after the show.
So after this podcast, after this interview goes down on the doctors, I have, I walk out of the stage and, we go upstairs to the dressing rooms and Melina Jampoulis is there. And she's the MD who is sitting next to me during this video, who's an internist. And I shake her hand and I say, "Hey, why don't you come on my podcast? Because I'd like to talk about some of this stuff more." And she goes, "No, I don't think so. What, so I can get railroaded?" And I said, "You mean like I just got railroaded on the show?" And she says, "You deserved it. You deserved it." I'm quoting. My friend Dylan was there with me. There were witnesses. She said, "You deserved it." And I said, "What do you mean? Why did I deserve it?" And she said, "I have seen guys like you, young, attractive men, get attention and then they hurt people." And I said, "Oh, so you're projecting onto me. You're projecting." And then she lost her shit. She lost her stuff and security got called and they separated us.
And this,
in the dressing room.
The lady that got pulled up on the screen right here, right? The woman that is
That's Melina Jampoulis. Yes,
okay.
That's her. Okay.
You deserved it. Doesn't that sound like something a lot of woke radicals say? What a terrible person and a coward. She spends all this time attacking him in a place where she has an extremely unfair advantage, and the second he offers a chance to debate on equal footing, she cowers away and plays the victim card. I thought this was about the truth. If you were so correct about this, then a debate with him should be easy. This is the kind of crap you need to worry about when people say, "Trust the scientists." I just showed you 3 doctors arguing against a point who did nothing but attack the credibility of their opponent while showing you no evidence that their standpoint was true. Just because you have letters in front of or behind your name doesn't mean that you're an honest person or capable of thinking critically. All it means is that you have the ability to memorize answers. Because really, look at how incredibly dishonest these doctors were. Look at how incredibly disingenuous the ideas that the judge proposed were. Your training and research only counts if we say it counts. That's not how any honest person looks at information. Honest people look at information from all types of sources. New sources, old sources, people they agree with, people they don't agree with. Even if I were a staunch vegan and hated the idea of the carnivore diet, Dr. Saladino's thought process is still valid. And think about this. What if while doing research on why plants are bad for you, the carnivores discover that certain vegetables are great for your health and certain vegetables are terrible for your health? That probably won't turn a vegan into a meat eater, but wouldn't it be valuable to the vegan to know that certain vegetables are harmful while others are not?
Why would we eat plant leaves? They clearly don't want to be eaten. They're full of defense chemicals. This is garbage. The other thing to know is that kale is the same plant as broccoli, is the same plant as collard greens, is the same plant as cauliflower. These are all brassica vegetables. They all have this defense mechanism. It's been widely touted as healthy for you. It's clearly trying to kill you.
Please, I am begging the universe for this to be true. I hate kale and I hate all those other vegetables he listed. They taste like garbage and they don't feel natural to eat like a cucumber, a carrot, or a pepper does. I have no intent on ever going on a carnivore diet, but if the carnivores did good research that proved I would never have to eat a disgusting leafy vegetable or a cruciferous vegetable ever again to be healthy, then I would very much appreciate that. This is one of the many reasons why you should listen to people you disagree with instead of covering your ears anytime someone doesn't spend their whole day confirming your bias. Even if they don't change your beliefs, they will very often point you in the direction of useful information that your side didn't think of. That's my major problem with this segment of the doctors, and it's my major problem with the radical left. Everything they do is about silencing their opposition and using propaganda tactics to convince people that they are right instead of using facts, reasoning, and evidence. Unfortunately, those methods work on at least most people. They even work on smart people, which is why I spend so much time on this channel teaching everyone what the bad faith propaganda techniques are so that you don't fall for them. My general rule is that bad faith propaganda techniques work on everyone. That's why these methods are used so frequently. If you aren't aware of the techniques, you will believe someone is right simply because they speak loudly like that judge did. The ultimate goal here is to retrain the way you think so that this stuff doesn't work on you, or at least it doesn't work on you as often. But with that said, I think that's enough for this video. So if you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, comment and share. If you would like to support this channel, then you can do so with PayPal, Patreon, or Subscribestar. You can find all of those links in the description. Last, don't forget to check me out on Odysee, Rumble, and Minds.com. You can also find those links in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.